Hi, I'm Dan Whittaker. I'm here today to analyse the golf swing of 2013 PGA champion Jason Dufner. Now, Dufner's got a fantastic swing, and it's one of my very personal favourites on tour. A lot of things in this golf swing that I like a lot. Now, during this very first move away, what we tend to see with Dufner is that the chest and the right hip and right shoulder in particular all turn away pretty quickly. So you'll see here how the right hip begins to turn backwards in this direction, right shoulder does, the hands follow this circle and follow the inside path of the body, and the club head stays way outside the hands. What you'll also notice is that the club head is the very last thing to move, so the angle in the left wrist actually increases. So we'd see here how that left wrist slightly increases, but look how the club is the perfect extension of the belly button. From here, he just simply folds that right elbow down and lets that left arm rotate across. So we see here at the top how this right elbow is perfectly in front of the right hip. This is an absolutely ideal location at the top of the backswing for many people to try and emulate and copy, because it just leads to a fully uninterrupted downswing. It means that the elbow gets the front part of the right hip without any form of manipulation. So what we'd see next now is how he then makes this transition, and that elbow can work straight to the front part of the hip, and we'll see that there's lots of room in front of his body for his arms right here. So from here, all he has to do is clear around this left side, and the arms and the body and the club all fully respond and go around with him. And what's very interesting with him as well is that he's got very quiet footwork. So you notice that the right heel's not exploding off the floor, but it's actually tending to roll across a little. So you see the weight here is moving in towards his left heel, which is noticed by the fact that the left toe box is up in the air. We'll also see that the right foot is rolling across, so the outside edge of the right heel is in the air, and the right foot is rolling towards the target, so the weight is also moving in towards the left heel. He does slightly throw his arms at it after impact here. I personally like to see him keep that right elbow on the hip a touch longer, but I just think that part of this is just due to the fact that he slightly slows down his body rotation. But here's this first move that we tend to see. Now, we have a look at this left wrist angle here. What you'll notice is that this actually increases a touch. So you see how the hands almost go backwards a little bit this way, with the chest turning, the hips turning, and you notice that the club head is the last thing to move. So you see how the club is very definitely lagging behind the hands. At this point now is an extension of the belly button, where he now allows the left arm to rotate, the right elbow folds down, and he has that right elbow right in front of the hip here. This is an absolutely fantastic position for a lot of people, particularly amateurs, to try and emulate. It means that the arms aren't getting too high, because if the arms are too high in the backswing, you have to wait for them to drop. What we see now is he gets over this left side, lets that left shoulder clear out the way, so the left shoulder and the chin very quickly separate, meaning the arms stay in front of the body, so he can then clear around that left side. And as we see once again from this view, see that right foot's rolling in towards the left. You never see this right foot explode or move away from the target in this direction, and we see that the weight is moving in towards the left heel, characterised by the fact that that left toe is very slightly working up in the air. We take a look at it from down the line, and we see here that the gap between the hands and the thigh here actually gets narrower during this first move. This is actually a two-dimensional image that we're looking at of a three-dimensional movement, meaning that if that gap actually gets wider, it means that your arms are getting further away from your body. If it actually narrows, the arms are going to be following on the same circle as the body, but because we're only looking at this from a 2D image, that gap will always narrow a little bit. We see now it's a perfect extension of the belly button. One other thing is he doesn't restrict the movement of his hips at all in the backswing. He's got a very deep hip turn in this direction, and the left arm is underneath the shoulder plane, but the right elbow is quite a long way below the left. this is fantastically loaded, because we'll see here how the right forearm is at 90 degrees to the floor. From this backswing, when he makes this transition now, as that left shoulder separates, you see how the arms get back in front of the body. He's got so much room that even though he extends that right arm a little bit too much for my liking, unlike his hero Ben Hogan, who's also a hero of mine kind of thing, you see here how the arms just keep following around with his body and then get through to his finishing position. Now, Dufner's coach is also the same coach as Luke Donald, and he's a big Ben Hogan fan, as too is Dufner. So we're going to have a look at why his first move is characterised by players of that era in just a moment. First thing we're going to do is just look at this driver swing from the 2014 Masters. We definitely see how the hands go in towards the right thigh. There's a lagging of the club head outside of the hands. And then we see how this is very much a three-quarter club head position, but he's fully wound up. Now, you can make a big wind up of the body and then a short arm swing. This is going to have everything fully in sync. So then he can just unwind and let everything follow him around, which is why he is such a phenomenal ball striker. He very rarely knocks the ball offline. He hits it incredibly pure, and we can see here why he does so many of these things brilliantly well, because the arms, the body and the club are simply just firing and following his body around to the finish. Now, I'm just going to compare Jason to Byron Nelson from this slight side-on view. Now what we'll see is two great players on very similar angles here, and what we'll notice is during this first move how that body starts turning away, but how that club head lags behind the rotation of the body. You can almost see the golf shaft here of Byron Nelson's loading slightly in this direction. Notice it here now, and we can see now that club's a perfect extension of the belly button, and how very similar both of those first moves are to one another. When we have a look at it from this view here, along with Mr. Hogan, what we'll tend to see is, again, we'll see that Dufner has that little bit of lag away in the takeaway here. You can see the shaft almost slightly loading here, but it's an extension of his belly button to this very much for a long time. And what we see here with Mr. Hogan is, you see that it's definitely happening again here, that golf shaft slightly loading, and the club is just a complete extension of the belly button. So they're very, very similar here. Now as we take it towards the top of the backswing, you'll see that Mr. Hogan very much loaded that right elbow nice and low down. Okay, Dufner just got a very slightly shorter backswing, but they get into very similar positions here to the top. The only difference we tend to see is on the way down, is Hogan will just be a little more open at impact right in here. Okay, and will tend to be a little bit more off the right side than Dufner, because he tends to extend that right arm for just a touch longer post impact. You can see here how his arm tends to extend a little longer, and Mr. Hogan's doesn't tend to have anywhere near the amount of rollover with the right wrist. But their first move in towards the top of the backswing, they're very similar to one another. They're not identical, as you wouldn't expect them to be, but there are a lot of similarities towards the top of the backswing right here. Hope you've enjoyed this analysis of Jason's swing. Please feel free to visit my website where there's some more videos, and I look forward to speaking with you again very soon. Thanks a lot.